Hello, everyone, and welcome. You have chosen the SCS Sports Podcast, your destination for local sports news, be it high school, be it professional, or whether you just want to listen to us ramble on about professional wrestling or old Seinfeld quotes or crazy movies that we all like. Welcome to the SCS Sports Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance over at 2382 Battlefield Parkway. You can reach them at 706-866-8283. Also, the Chattanooga Flower Market, 8016 East Brainerd Road, 423-899-2440. Phil's Primetime Pizza down in beautiful Chickamauga, Georgia, 122 Gordon Street. That's 706-375-4448. Our good friend Greg Payne, host of Restricted to the Dugout with Greg Payne and the Payne Mortgage Team. You can reach them at 423-645-9404 for all of your mortgage needs. And finally, Choo Choo Barbecue, who make it possible for us to bring you the scoreboard on Friday nights. The Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga Scoreboard. You can reach them at 12960 U.S. Highway 27 at 706-375-7675. And as Ringo Rob likes to say, you don't know Q until you know Choo Choo. We also want to say a special thank you to Matthew Mays and the good friends and members of Jupiter Coyote, one of our favorite bands, and they provide the music for the show. Those guys have always been great to us, and we hope you guys will reach out and try to check out their music as well. So sit back and relax and hold on, and we'll see where we get to. And welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the SCS Sports Podcast. This would be episode 18 for those of you paying attention at home. Rusty, Scott, and Rob joining you live from Studio X. And for the first time in a long time, the SCS Sports Podcast is coming to you live tonight with a studio audience. So behind us tonight, we have people that are hanging out with us here in the sports bar, we shall say. But joining us on the podcast tonight, our good friend David Stephenson, now at Silverdale.
Yeah, just coaching at Silverdale.
Just coaching. But he has come by tonight to hang out with us and talk about something that he's got upcoming. So without further ado, I'll let you plug what you've got, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Gotcha. So my main real paying job is I am the director of NACA Sports, National Association of Christian Athletes. NACA has been around for now 44 years, and we host national and regional athletic events throughout the school year for private, independent Christian schools and parochial schools throughout the Southeast. So in just about 2 weeks, well, actually about 3 weeks, we'll be hosting our annual national basketball tournament in Dayton, Tennessee. And during the course of those 2 weeks, we'll have over 120 teams from over 20 different states coming into our fair area to compete. And we've been blessed also the last couple of years to have Mr. Herbst participate and help us along the way.
Now, that's not exactly AAU, but at the same token, with 100-plus teams in, AAU teams bring in those type of numbers.
Yeah. So it's definitely not AAU. They all have to meet the eligibility requirements of a school or a homeschool group and turn in and things like that. It's not AAU.
But it's big numbers on here. You said 100 teams.
100, yeah. So week 2 we'll have 72 teams competing, and we'll be in 6 different gyms in the Dayton area. And week 1 will be in 5 different gyms, and the teams are playing from 8:30 in the morning to basically 9:30 at night.
I think the last time you came on here, which was last year, I think you promoted us, and it was Dayton then as well, too.
Yeah, so that's our home base. And so right after that, we're doing a regional soccer event in April. But then in May, we do our national baseball, softball tournament right here in Camp Jordan in East Ridge, and as well as spring soccer, which is on our site in Dayton. So we're expanding. We do regional events. We've been in Indianapolis. We've been down here in Rossville with basketball. We've been in Memphis, Kansas City. Next year we'll be in Cincinnati for a volleyball event. And we'll also be in North Dakota next year for a basketball event. So we're trying to expand the footprint of what we do. And, if you look at once we release our divisional teams, D1 teams, traditionally we have some of the top 10 teams in America coming to our event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that gym up there at Fort Bluff, the walls literally are lined with pictures of kids that have played in that tournament and where they went to college. Some of them went on to play in the pros. There are several NBA players that have gone on to have come out of that tournament. And I think you told me the story, of one year when there was like 100 college coaches and some of the biggest name coaches you can find were sitting in that little gym up there.
So right now, I guess the name that most people out there would know, She-Wave from Kentucky, played at senior year, was playing at our tournament because he came out of a little Christian school in
Okay,
Virginia.
so when I threw out AAU and we went a different direction, we're talking about some talent from the same type of composite there. We're talking about guys and girls that went on to play professional basketball.
Yeah, what's the Gilgis Alexander?
Yeah.
He played.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, he played up there.
Yeah.
There's been several pro
and he's
players.
big time NBA star now.
So, through the years, what's really crazy is the concept of those national Geico, Nike things. That whole concept started really with NACA 44 years ago because nobody was doing that back then except NACA. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, the leadership that was there got too contented instead of continuing to grow it and move it, and everybody else passed by. Yeah, passed by, and so that's basically one of the reasons why I was hired 3 years ago was to kind of get it back into that. And talk to them about their future and what they're going to do with their life and stuff like that. They're not getting that anywhere else but us. So
that's good stuff as well, Dave.
Yeah.
Now, so many times we hear when tournaments come in town, whether they be softball tournaments, baseball tournaments, we talk about the economic impact. Now, 100+ teams just finding its way to Dayton, Tennessee. Now, they probably don't have the hotel capacity to hold on to that, but that has a trickle-down effect in the Hamilton County.
Oh, absolutely. So, one thing that's unique about our place is that we actually are conducting it on a campground. Our main facility is part of another campground, Fort Bluff. So when the teams come in, not only do they play there, then the majority of them stay on site with us.
Oh.
So
you didn't tell the whole story early, Dave.
Sorry about that.
I didn't realize you had your own RV park there when they got there.
They've got dorms and they've got lodges and they've got all that stuff. They can pay for where they want to stay. We've got cabins and we've got houses,
well, and
the teams can all stay together. And then we also include we got a dining hall, three meals a day included and whatever. If they want to stay on site, we love them for them too. If they don't, I don't know why they wouldn't, because they couldn't get what we offer them for the price that we're offering for them. But yeah, Dayton is not exactly overflowing with hotels. So we have teams that'll stay in Chattanooga. We have teams that stay in Cleveland. We have teams that stay in Hickson and Saudi. So yeah, there's a huge. So we have 770 beds on site. Week 2, every one of them's full right now. So
and that's not really new, although that goes back in time. I'm 59 when playing 14, 15-year-old Dizzy Dean World Series out of town. That's what they did to all the teams that came in. At Mississippi State, with some dorms that were open during the summer.
Definitely, yeah. So that's we try to do the best we can. We've got not only do we have to house the teams, we have fans that book a year in advance to get into our cabins, and we also have to house a tremendous amount of officials for this event. Which, in case you guys hadn't picked up on it, there was definitely an official shortage in America.
That's right. We've had officials on the show.
Yeah.
How you go about finding that many basketball officials from how far off?
So this year we've got officials coming in from Alabama, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, obviously, and South Carolina, Mississippi. I can't remember, but we're fortunate. We use a national assigning company, same one I used at the college, and so that's another thing. So when I got to Fort Bluff NACA, they were actually writing individual check for every official that came up there. We have one woman doing that, and she was about to drive her nuts. And I said, "Why are we doing this? Why don't we have an assigner that we do and write one check?" And she went, "Oh, I was her best friend from then on out."
That makes good sense.
But he has the capability wherever we do our tournaments, whether it's nationals or regionals, someplace, connecting us with officials for everything. And seriously, in every sport, not just the sports we sanction, but every sport that I'm aware of, there is a official shortage that is of epic proportion in America. Right
Scott, now I know you're a little biased here, but I'm going to let you be that way. But you go to a lot of different tournaments. You get to see how they kind of are run organized-wise and efficient-wise. Tell us about your experience of watching that last year.
I remember, the basketball tournament is as good a run tournament as you'll find. Everything is pretty much running on time. For a tournament that has, one location may have 8 or 9 games in a day, and we're rarely running late on anything. Everything, I've been associated with now for 2-3 years, I guess, and everything just runs like clockwork. For the most part, there's a hiccup every now and then. Every tournament does, but we rarely. I can't think of one major problem that we've had, the last couple of years.
What are some
as basketball goes?
What's some of the things you've had to fine tune over 4 years? I mean, I'm sure it's changed. It's evolved by your direction.
Yeah. So, not to be whatever, but when I first, I was coming out of a state-run college where you didn't breathe unless you had a PO, and budgets were precise and whatever. And when I got there was no POs, there was no budgets, there was no post-event, evaluation to see how we did, or not just financially, but with anything, what can we improve. So that was one of the major things. Another huge thing was whenever I first got there, they were allowing teams to register. The tournament teams come in and pick up their enrollment packet on Tuesday. The previous leadership was allowing them to register on Monday. Teams to come in on Monday, and that was insane because you couldn't pre-plan a schedule, you couldn't tell teams who they were going to play first round, you couldn't do any of this stuff. Sure. So we backed that all up 2 weeks, which I think was a huge advantage for us.
Sure.
They were doing, hey, you come in and you're either going to be in this division or this division, and if you win, you're in this division, you lose, you're in this division. Teams were tanking the first game so they could go to a weaker division. And so one of the things we said was like, no, here's descriptional divisions. You register in the one, and then we have a committee that looks at everybody every week. In fact, I was up there today in the war room, we call it, looking at what they have, and hey, you registered in Division 6 and you're 27-1. No. So and then having teams
play a real weak league,
and then have teams come up and say, well, we're enough that, or we can't compete, or stuff like that. No, so we have one person that when teams, as soon as they register with us, he is immediately on trying to find what conference they're in, who they play, common opponents, blah 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 blah, and to keep that from happening. We want parity, and I think Scott has seen that. Where the times he's there. Very, very rarely do you have anybody blowing anybody out by 20, and very rarely do you have anybody beating anybody by 20. It's usually very, very competitive games, and that's what we want. And that's the ones you want. I am amazed at coaches that come in, and I think some of the coaches in every sport we have would say, hey, we don't even want to play. Let's just take a vote on who has the best looking uniform and let them win, because they don't want competition, and that's just very hard for me to get used to. But we have some really good talent, really well-coached teams. Some teams that probably people don't really know because they stay off the radar quite a bit because they're independent, or
because you're not a member of like GHSA, the TSSAA, Florida, Alabama. You rarely see some of these teams. You never even heard of some of these teams.
Mm-hmm. And what's crazy is that some of them would do very well. Mm-hmm. at our place, and there's some teams that don't want to be in those things because they want to be able to travel and do all these things. And TSSAA wouldn't ever let TSSAA wouldn't let a member go to a Geico tournament. I don't believe, or like that. And so one of the reasons why we started doing regional events is to possibly get some of those TSSAA, GSHA, whatever that couldn't ever really play in our postseason come and play in one of our regionals. So we're hoping to expand that footprint as well. But
Will that Florida team be back with the assistant coach with the great shoes? That's all I want.
Yes, he'll be back.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yes, he is.
I cannot, Rusty, you're a shoe guy. I cannot begin to tell you. Try, like sparkly magenta, not sequin, but like metallic.
Oh, you're going back to that magenta color again. That
Magenta. He brought that crap out last year. Was it were they Nikes?
No. These are dress shoes.
Dress shoes.
Oh.
These are dress shoes, usually with a corresponding suit.
I mean,
it matches. But yes,
I got some red and black velvet ones upstairs. I mean, come on now.
Right in his wheelhouse.
You get a lot of interesting coaches for sure.
Oh, of course you do.
But the thing that I really love about us is that even though we have, like this year in D1, we have Hamilton Heights and Riverdale and Shabbat and several of these ranked very, very talented teams. We also offer a D8 division this year that's got just, very small independent Christian schools that their kids just love to play and they want to be part of something on that level.
So Hamilton Heights is
Hamilton Heights is in this tournament with boys and girls.
Okay, and teams kind of their stature that they've been playing across country.
Y'all are familiar with Riverdale, Mount Mission out of Virginia. That's actually where Shibboleth played. So when you look at our Division I boys and Division II boys this year, you look at the teams that are in it, you'll probably be very surprised. And then Division I girls, Division I girls especially, got pretty tough.
And those are probably teams that could. I mean, if they're in that high of a division, I mean, like Hamilton Heights, I mean, Lord, there's years when they can go compete with the best of them. I mean, they can play the Oak Hill Academies. They can play, what's the one in...
number 2 national.
They can play IMG. They can play, that
level.
Yeah, they can play on that level. I mean, that's
King,
that's... Well, what's the one at Greater Atlanta Christian?
Oh, yeah.
So, Excel down in Atlanta wanted to get in our tournament this year, and they can't come the week that they they're like, we can't come week 1, we have to come week 2. I'm like, no, you're too good to come week 2.
Yeah.
But those people, and so for instance, the team that won our D1 girls last year, they were the ones that came in second in the Geico Nationals.
Is that Virginia team?
Sam Caldwell's team. It was New Hope.
Yeah.
So they came in second in the Geico's at Nationals.
Virginia or Maryland? I can't remember.
I think they're from Maryland.
So you were there, Scott. And you've seen good Georgia talent. You've seen good Tennessee talent. So in awe of some of those teams that came in there in their talent level.
Yeah, there's some teams that can compete. Maybe not with Wheeler or somebody like that. That's nationally ranked and out of Georgia, something like that. But a lot of these regions around here, some of those teams up there would be right in the mix and probably the favorites in some of the regions. I mean, just because you're not in the GHSA, the TSSAA, and you're not out there in the state rankings, don't think there aren't good basketball talent everywhere.
Well, you just use that Hamilton Heights team. Most of the people in the Chattanooga area don't see them play. They really don't know who they are and what they walk out there on a court with. I know they used to get in McCauley's tournament.
And a couple years ago, I know the girls were ranked preseason number 2 nationally, and the boys were like 10th, 11th, something like that. So, there's been years where Hamilton Heights has been among the elite in the entire nation.
Well, and two, you got to inevitably somebody's got to point out, basketball is one of those games that you don't have to have a team full of D1 talent. I mean, you got
a player or two out there
one really good player and some guys around him that are pretty decent. And it doesn't matter what level you play at, you can compete. I mean, it's not like football where the disparaging talent is so far. It's just different. Basketball's different.
Another thing, Scott, when you mentioned football, when you talk about a large group, I would say probably 80% of the teams that come to us don't have football.
Right.
So there's not any.
So basketball's their bread and butter sport.
That's the engine that drives the train, and so they don't have to worry about some football coach saying, "Hey, if you want to play for me, you can't play basketball."
Yeah.
You don't have to run.
Or you can't go out there till the season's over.
Yeah, and you don't have to run into that. Basketball is their, I mean, I went to Temple where basketball I tell people was right below God, but I think sometimes it was actually above God. But I think that's the way it is in most Christian schools.
Yeah.
And so you're getting a lot of.
Dr. Robertson still demanded you be there on Sunday morning.
Well, I didn't go to church there, so I was off campus, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I think that also it's a great. I will plug this. If there's college coaches out there right now listening, it's a great recruiting thing. You can come up there and one day see 8 games.
Yeah, sure.
And you got good kids. Their parents are already used to paying the school bill.
Yeah.
Limited scholarships right now. You're looking for that, and they're dying to play somewhere because they get very little exposure.
And you would realistically hope that because they go to those types of schools that you're not going to get the knucklehead parents the same way that you will at some of the other
ranks. You can understand what you just said right
absolutely.
There. He knows.
One of the first thing I did when I got there was I sent a hard copy letter and an email to several of my contemporaries that I had coached against and athletic directors within a 150-mile radius of us. And I got calls back from 4 or 5 of them like, "This is great. When did you start this?" And I said, "I started, brother. It's been around.
It's been going on for a long time,
And they were like, "We never heard of it." And that's another sad fact of the previous leadership was they never did any type of marketing or promotion. And in the world we live in today, you can't.
All right.
Do that.
And people Oak Hill Academy has played at this tournament.
Central out of
Oak Hill Academy of Carmelo Anthony fame.
There's been some big name schools that are just right up the road, an hour away, and it's surprising that more people hadn't tapped into it.
All right, real quick. Since we have a former college basketball coach on here with us, all you kids out there, listen up real quick.
Is he going to say something about
and
grades?
You moms out there, listen up real quick,
teacher,
too.
You're going to ask that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 of the most important things that you look at as a recruiter. Number 1, grades.
Yeah, paperwork.
And number 2, you monitor their social media.
Well, I didn't.
But
I had somebody that did do it.
That's what I'm talking about.
So one of the first things that I, as a former college coach, I ask coaches, okay, what's their grades like? And you know what? Sad but true, I got a lot of lies through the years.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because a lot of kids can get through high school, but as far as being really ready for college no. So that's the first thing, paperwork, and the second thing is, and Scott knows, he was SID there, when I was coaching some years, and we had a policy in our handbook for the kids. Do something on social media, you're gone. And the last 2 or 3 years I was there, we had to get rid of some kids because they violated that policy.
Yep.
But you really, it's almost like
and that's something 25 years ago you wouldn't have had.
Well, what I get ready to say, 25 years ago, it would have been like me looking at their diary.
Well, yeah, because everybody lives it right out there in the open now.
Everybody lives it out in the open now, and instead, and I'm sitting there. We did. I had some of my assistant coaches that would go on the media and say, "Tell me about this kid," because I'm not into that. But tell me about that. And if there's people out there who think it don't make a difference, if the coach you want your kid to play for is worth his salt, it's going to make a difference. Those 2 things are going to make a difference. There's a lot of coaches out there that don't care, but that wasn't me.
Well, it never fails. Those posts always start something like, I'm not one to complain.
Oh yeah,
but
well, and I'll tell you something else too, and I think that everybody out there should look at, if possible, is the parents' social media.
Yep.
So one of the hugest things that I started at when I went up to the NACA was we were not doing anything for the coaches. We were doing a tournament for the kids. We were talking to the kids. We had events for the kids, and the average coach now gets out of his sport in 7 years.
7 years.
It's average sport. FCA stats tell us that 7 years coaches get out of it. Why is that?
Parents.
Okay, parents.
Kids.
Media, finance.
Fundraising.
I've done workshops about all that stuff. But one of the things is that when I was growing up, when y'all were growing up, if a coach did something to irritate us and we didn't like, on the way back from the road game, we had that whole trip to sit there and calm down and before we got home and told parents. Now, they're on that phone telling everybody, telling mom and dad, and then whenever you get there, mom and dad
Dave, let me take it another step.
Yeah.
We didn't tell our parents that.
Oh no,
that was within the locker room, and we didn't even sulk up about it for too long.
That's the old "what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas" rule.
I told my parents some of the stuff that my coaches did to me.
Yeah, now it's just the opposite. And I was fixing to go there with you. you've been at all levels, and we know that it would behoove parents to learn early to stay out of the coach's business from a standpoint, because when they get to college, you will have no voice. You will have no voice. So if you've gotten used to having a voice, you're going to be offended that you have no voice.
I had in the years I was coaching in college, I maybe had 4 parent incidents, and they did not last very long. I can tell you right now, because by law, I don't have to talk to the parents.
Right.
The parents don't even have access to kids' grades once they get to be 18 in college. They have to,
because they're adults.
Kids have to sign
whether
a waiver.
They're paying for it or not.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen people come in and write a check, give it to them, and the guy goes, "Do you want to be? You guys sign this for your parents to do your grades?" And the kid's like, "No."
Now I guarantee you that everybody in this room that's been to college has a story like this. But I will tell y'all that I share these stories with kids at school all the time, and that is I explain things that you get away with here, you ain't going to get away with at the next level.
No.
And I don't mean that I got a bunch of kids doing a bunch of nefarious things or anything like that. What I'm saying is stuff like, you turn an assignment in a day or two late, things like that. I mean, every one of us probably has that story from college. Mine goes, I walked into a teacher's office with a paper that I had written that was a day late. And I said, "Here you go. I wasn't able to. I was sick yesterday." And the teacher literally looked at it and said, "Well, that looks like a pretty good paper, but you know my rule." And literally pitched it in the waste bin right there beside the desk and said, "I appreciate the effort at least."
Yeah. You're a number.
F.
The big thing I tell kids.
Not even an F. That's a 0, man. They ain't even know.
The big things I used to tell kids, the difference between high school and college, and it really, unless you go somewhere really small college. In high school, you actually probably are a person to somebody. Mm-hmm. At least 2 or 3 of your teachers know your name.
Yeah.
You get to college, you're a number.
Yep.
You're an ID number. Oh, you're not here? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not obligated in any shape, form,
hate it for you
to do that. And another thing I would tell parents while I'm just on this soapbox is, please don't go to your kid's coach right after a game about anything. Yeah. Wait until the next day, call and schedule an appointment, because you're going to be hot. The coach doesn't want to deal with that.
And you're talking there about high school, middle school, not college.
Well, no, I've had one or two college that guess what? I had a security guard with me there, so they didn't do much of nothing. But and I will say this to every young coach out there: no matter what the parent approaches you about initially, they can say this, they can say that. I want to talk to you about this, about that. No matter what they start off with, 99% of the time, it's always going to go back to playing time.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what they disguise it as.
Nope.
Starting out, it's going to go back to playing time. And one of the things I promised, I told every recruit I ever did, I said 2 things. I'm not going to promise you an amount of playing time, and I'm not going to promise you I'll get you to the next level. Well, and parents, I mean, even the elementary school team I'm helping coach this year, we had to deal with parent playing time on 3 occasions. This is elementary school basketball, and so you're like, geez, and
I don't. You don't have to take that story any further for me not to believe that.
I heard a. It might have been Calipari or somebody I heard talking about this, but what I heard was, you as a parent, you come to the game and you see that your child is not playing, and that makes you mad because you come to the game and you see that they're not playing. But what you don't see is practice every day when that same kid that ain't playing is the one that's over there in the corner half-assing it the entire time. And there's 8 other kids out there outworking them from every end of the floor, and they don't understand why their kid sits. Well, their kid could tell you why they sit because they know the reason, but they just don't want to share that reason with mom and dad. Well, Mom, I was over there on my phone.
If you take high school, and I'm going to start with high school. If you take high school stories that are told by athletes of many decades back, they all start to sound the same, that when it came to practice, whether it was outside of practice or an inside practice, parents weren't around.
No.
They didn't exist. Now, they do now. And I feel for some coaches. I feel for some coaches that practice in front of a committee. I really do, because of the way they have to handle themselves and whatever, because everybody's taking notes, everybody's listening to what he said, and I feel for
everybody carries a video camera in their pocket
that they have to go through that.
Yeah, definitely. So I would tell you, I never had a practice that I had a parent in. I wouldn't allow it. This is closed practice, you get out. And that was whether it was elementary school or college. And I learned that the very first interscholastic team I ever competed on, Tennessee Temple Elementary School. We played interscholastic against other schools. And my coach then, we was having tryouts, and a bunch of parents were there, and he got up and said, hey, you know what? Right across the street, guys, they got some, the dining hall serving hot coffee and biscuits and sausage. Y'all can go over there and come back in 2 hours. And one of the parents was like, well, I'm not leaving. He said, well, your kid's not going to try out. And then another parent in that same thing was, well, I'll tell the principal. My coach was the principal. And so he's like,
hey, hang on, let me put my other hat on.
I'm the principal, in case you don't know that.
You're running out of
options here, So
I'll give you his number.
From day one.
Yeah, hold on, let me get him.
And I never will forget that. And so I had a high school coach that would rope the doors.
Yeah.
You couldn't get away with that now.
No.
To keep people out. But, and that's one of the things I used to tell every team I've ever had. Look, guys, there's only 3 people in here that know what we do in practice every day. You, me, and God. Your parents aren't involved in any of that. Me, you, and God. That's it. They're the only 3 here that knows what we're doing.
But David, you can honestly say, how much you eliminate by doing it that way versus the other way.
Oh, absolutely.
Listen, I've been at high school practices, and there's plenty of people, but I feel for the coaches sometimes that have a audience watching them at practice. I really do.
So I will tell you this. I won't tell you the school that it was, but when I left the college, I was in the finals for a private school in Chattanooga, and what they were doing is they were going to bring the coaches in, have a simulated practice with the players, and they had a sports committee that was going to be watching that practice. I did not participate in that. Now, I don't know whether I got the job or not, but I didn't participate in it because I'm like,
yeah, you should.
No, you can't do that. I don't know these kids, and people don't know me, and I couldn't do it.
So they're going to judge how you run a practice,
basically,
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing you're going to judge, I do this without nobody watching.
Yeah, and a geometry teacher.
I ain't gonna lie to you. That's the benefit of coaching a sport that most people don't understand. Ain't really got much to worry about.
Right.
Gets mom and dad kind of watch and go,
yeah, he hit that.
He must be doing something right.
Hit it.
Good job.
I had a parent
swing
when I was coaching track wanted to come out and watch track practice. What?
Yeah.
He's going to run around the track a couple of times, and he's going to stretch and send him home.
You going to show me how to throw that javelin? That's
I will say this, and I told this to somebody the other day. The older I get, my sympathy is greater, but my understanding
is less.
My diplomacy fails quite big. Because I'm like, I've had since even in this job, I've had people say, I've never heard of a tournament being run like this. I don't understand, and I'm sitting there going, I've been doing this for 36 years. I've never heard of anybody that's saying the stuff out of your mouth that you're saying.
Well, it goes back to that.
You're not talking to a rookie here.
And y'all both don't communicate.
You know because you deal with people all the time, and I talk about this all the time at school and everything, and that is just that we're in an era of folks where everybody believes that everything they have to say is important. It doesn't matter if it is or if it's not. It's just that because you have a phone in your pocket that you can pick up at any time and put your words out on any social media platform that you want to put it out, and inevitably 15, 20, 30, 100 people, whatever, is going to like it, or they're going to agree, they're going to disagree, they're going to call you an idiot, whatever they're going to do. But people believe inevitably now that because they have to say it, that matters, and that used to just be adults, and then it started to trickle down to college kids, and then to high school kids, and then now we got like elementary kids and middle school kids that think that their words are pearls of wisdom. Yeah, I mean, and it's I just I can't imagine. And Scott and me are pretty close to the same age, and some of our friends here would probably agree with us on this. Is I can't imagine being in a situation where my parents were talking to somebody and I interjected the things that I hear kids interject sometimes now. I mean, it it would have been like one of those TikTok videos where, you see the dark and the guy's like slapping the guy on the cheek going, hey, buddy, are you all right? you kind of got a little away from yourself right there, and I had to knock you back down. That's what it would have been like. It was the old, you didn't speak unless spoken to kind of thing, and it ain't like that no more.
I shared a story about that with some people today at work. When I was 16 years old, my dad was a barber, and I said, Dad, I want you to dye my hair jet black like Elvis. And he goes, I'm not going to do that. He said, I'm not going to dye your hair jet black. It's going to stay the color it is. And I said, well, there's about 100 other barbers in this town. Wow, that was not the thing to say at that particular
He knew better.
time.
There was only 15.
Yeah, but I really regretted that. But
you must. You're still telling that story.
Yeah, I do.
It's
I do.
stuck
Yeah.
with you.
And another thing is when you're talking about people think what they have to say is important.
Yeah.
I literally have had people email me and call me in this position that said, if you don't change the format of this event, we're not coming back.
Well, then don't come back.
And I don't think they realize that right now in America there's 47,000 Christian and independent schools. I'm not going to cry because you're not
you could
coming back
replace
to the
that.
tournament.
You could replace that one.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're not reasonable.
No.
You
would tweak it if it needed to be tweaked.
But when somebody says, "Hey, if we lose the first round, then we have no chance of winning the tournament," duh. Yeah, that's the way national tournaments are. State tournaments don't run that way. My kids go to Silverdale. Hey, the boys just lost first round. Oh, well, let's give another chance. No, you lose the first
that's not
round,
how it works.
done,
That's not how it works.
We don't understand, and this, I try. Scott will tell you. He knows me a little better than you guys, but you guys know I'm not a hard guy. But
No.
I'm sitting there going, well, we're not coming back unless you do this.
Yeah. Don't let the door hit you.
Yeah, bye. It's just...
David, we want to get some other subject matter out of here, but wrap up this tournament and tell us everything anybody needs to know.
Yeah, because Lord knows we can't have you on here and not talk wrestling.
We're going to another subject, but tell everybody what they need to know.
February 22nd, 23rd, and 24th will be our week one of the tournament. That's where you have your upper division teams will be coming in. And then March 1, 2, and 3, and 4, we have so many teams. Second week, we have to carry some games into Saturday morning. Those will be your lower division teams. Teams from 20 different states. Go to nacasports.org for information. We will be live streaming all the games out of our Fort Bluff this year. If it's just up the road. If you want to come, pay a very minimal price and get in and see 8 or 9 really quality basketball games. We have 7 different gyms week 2, 5 different gyms week 1. We'd love to have you come out and see what we're doing.
Dayton, Tennessee.
And get to hear the 462nd best PA announcer.
462nd best.
Ron is coming in.
I hear Red Zone Ron's voice every day because is
he available?
When I do the
book him in advance?
No, man. When we do the morning announcements at school every day, I asked Ron a year ago. I said, "Will you record the Pledge of Allegiance for me?"
Oh.
And he did. So when we do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning at school, it is Red Zone Ron's voice reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and it tickled him to death for me to ask. I got it.
No, we are blessed to
Coffee.
have Scott coming up and helping.
Yeah.
We really are.
So let's just jump right into this mess because
We've got the good names coming in first.
Yeah.
Right?
let's talk about.
That's the worst part is just
It's about to come on.
okay. Let me just make sure before I butcher this name. Please don't put this kid off the bench.
No. What's his name from Friends? Tataka Kakek.
There's a lot of foreigners. Yeah.
So, you being a long time wrestling fan like the rest of us, I got one question to kick this off, and that is simply this: for the love of Mary, can somebody beat Roman Reigns and stop subjecting me to that head of the table crap every week?
Now let me interject. I actually think that they've done a pretty good job in a long time of coming up with something.
It's
I think
good.
They struggled forever.
But you've
to
beat
have
it to
something.
but you beat it to death
they've
at this
gone
point.
a long ways with it.
Yeah, you beat it to death at this point.
But you've also, because of that, you've turned Sami Zayn
into a superstar.
biggest
Yeah.
babyface star they have. I think you're going to see the title change at WrestleMania.
We say that, we think that, but it wouldn't surprise us if they didn't let it drop either. It just wouldn't surprise us. I mean, it's on a run.
But I think I just got a feeling. I don't know if he beats him clean.
It's a stage that it can be done.
I don't know if he beats him clean.
All right, David, what are your thoughts?
When the Usos turns on him, because we saw that kind of...
The Usos?
They're not
plural.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not a WWE
I know
guy,
you're not.
Okay, but I do know a little bit about what's going on. And, I think whenever you say the whole bloodline, all that, it's gone NWO.
Yeah.
It's way outlived its usefulness. And when it should have been ended and could have been ended by somebody. Did anybody think Kevin Owens was going to be him? No. If they let Cody Rhodes beat him, nobody's going to believe that.
I'm the same way on that. I'm the same way on that, but
unless somebody turns on him.
Is that the one you're thinking that's going to let happen?
You know what? I think the fact that he wrestled through that torn pec.
They're going to give it to him?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why they probably let him win the run.
It may be a token 30. Title run.
Well, here's the thing that and I just watched this much of him coming out and doing his spiel. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there when he said, I went through 29 other guys. No, you didn't.
He went through 4.
He went through and that's 5. A personal insult to me as a Flair fan who saw Flair go 60-something minutes.
I caught that too.
What's his name? Gunther went. That dude was like number 1 or number 2 and went all the way through the whole daggum thing.
So, I'm not a Cody guy.
Wouldn't you say if they were going to let him win it, and obviously they probably did, that he couldn't have survived being number 2? He had to come out. Oh, no, there's no...
With that coming straight off that injury and stuff and not having... No.
So he had to come out.
He wouldn't have gone longer than maybe 15, 20 good minutes.
I think I agree with Scott. If they let him win, it would be because somebody turned on him and he did not win it clean. Mm-hmm. Let's put it that way. But then you've got him built up such a huge babyface now. What do you do about that? I actually told somebody today, I actually think that Dustin is a much better in-ring performer. I think Dustin is much better in-ring performer than Cody. He never had the, except when he was Gold Dust.
I think he's terrible. I think Cody's terrible on the mic.
I still think they want to give it to him because of Dusty.
I think the whole reason
they want to go back and hand it to somebody because of Dusty Rhodes.
I think the whole reason they wanted him there was just so that he wasn't still in AEW. And so they've probably promised him a title run or something like that.
I think if AEW had turned him heel, it would have been awesome.
I think so too. Him and MJF together.
But he made some. I'm a huge AEW fan, but he made some huge, stupid moves over there in AEW. He himself
taking himself out of the title picture was the dumbest thing that he could have done.
And
which I understood why he did that, but.
Yeah, but that reality show had made him... He hit it on the head. That reality show had made him so unlikable, and her too, that the heel turn would have been perfect.
And I knew whatever... And now you guys probably saw this. The night he threw the belt in the crowd and they threw it back.
Yeah.
That was when I would be like, if I'm backstage and I'm anybody that has anything to do with this, that's when I'm like, turn him now, right now. Yeah. And he would have been the most hated guy.
Oh yeah.
On the roster. But whenever they kept trying to make him into something he wasn't, and he's not, and for him to think he was in the same caliber of wrestler with Hangman and
Mox and all those guys,
but he was in somewhat of an in charge status at AEW. I mean, he could have actually. You were paying
for his name. Yeah. You were paying him because his last name was Rhodes.
But I did hear tons of people backstage did not like his wife.
Oh, yeah. Do you think there is any legitimacy to the Tony Khan potentially looking at purchasing WWE?
I don't know.
Or Saeed,
I don't know why he would.
Yeah, but I mean, but think about it. Is there anybody out there that could outbid those two? I mean,
it really wants it. I don't know.
Unless somebody in Saudi Arabia buys it, something like that.
One of the purchasers I saw, potential buyers, was Disney, and I thought, well, that would be lousy for Disney to purchase that, because based on who they want to be, that they couldn't make anything ever fit.
Well, if you stayed, because you'd have to go back to the PG-13 aspect, and and all that. Not
So I hope they don't buy
I
it.
hope nobody buys it because I think everything runs better when there's multiple.
I do too.
You know, I love the territory days. I used to love it.
Well, okay, so that brings it to the next thing that you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you because we haven't seen you since they came on, and that's the Tales from the Territory. So I'll let this out because I don't think he'd mind me saying this. We got a message to Scenic City the other day from a certain former wrestler in the area that is also a media personality, and I talked to said gentleman for a little while the other day, and we talked about that show, and he could not say enough good things about how authentic that it was.
I think it's really,
And
really well.
you know, I watched every episode. I didn't necessarily agree with the order of episodes. I would have finished it off with Crockett Promotions. To me, would have been the last one. That should have been the season finale. But the Calgary one was hilarious. Was awesome. I loved that one. The stories about Stu grabbing a hold of people and like with the high school wrestling coach and
Putting him down.
putting him down. You know,
Well,
let me show you this where you put your arm right here.
Well,
The guy broke into his house and he stretched
Yeah,
it
yeah,
up
stretched
like 4
it.
hours.
And you guys are like me, probably.
And then give him a job.
You didn't see those shows.
No.
And so to hear about them now, you know, you read about them in the magazines, but to hear about them now, you know, and how easy it was to, you know, and some of those things I was like, oh, he wrestled there as this?
And
I didn't know because you didn't know that.
you just mentioned something that it's interesting, brought up. Those magazines kept the wrestling world educated on all those territories.
Oh, absolutely.
And without it now, and they don't do that, and I guess it's because they don't feel it's necessary. I mean, it's print, but those magazines did what they were supposed to do.
Absolutely.
You'd pick those up and you say, well, who's this guy over here that's doing all this?
And so whenever you know, they used to send the vignettes, hey, so-and-so's coming into the area. You guys are probably like me. You went to your magazines like, who is that guy? What did he do? You know, whatever. But I also remember, you know, it was literally like the mafia. You didn't go into somebody else's territory without permission. And I remember first time WWF came to Chattanooga and was in the auditorium. And my friends were like, you going to go see it? I'm like, heck no, I'm not going to see that cartoon mess. If it's not NWA, man, I'm not.
And of course, that's all documented. That when Vince took that, he said that it's going to be one big show.
The first time I remember them coming, it's funny you say that because I think the first time I remember them coming into Chattanooga was Saturday night's main event.
So at
UTC Arena.
They were at the auditorium in 85, 86.
Oh, wow.
Just a show.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember going, no, I'm not.
The last time I went to one, and they haven't been back in a long time, I said to myself, well, they can't afford to come back here if this is all going to show up.
Well, remember that time you and me
just
and
a few thousand people's not
Scott and
not
Foley
enough
went
for them to drop anchor here.
No, so I took my girls, who are huge AEW fans.
I think I've been to one after that.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It didn't.
We went down.
Well, we went to the couple up in Nashville. You know, we went up there to Raw.
Well, that's a bigger, a
house
bigger
show.
venue.
Oh yeah, no.
So we went to AEW at Gas South during the summer. I took my girls. They did a
Down Duluth.
Dynamite down at there, and we got to see, you know, the dark, and then we got to see. So you're getting a ton of wrestling in because they do dark before they do Dynamite, and then they do Rampage after that. And the crowd difference to me when I, you know, being there watching AEW on TV compared to watching WWE, the crowd difference is insane. To me, I don't see WWE rabid fan base like you do in AEW. In AEW, I mean, there's some of those guys. You know, nobody. I mean, I don't know. WWE got anybody that's singing the worst ever song when somebody comes out?
No.
Thing like they do with Chris Jericho.
Well, they show you the same.
When you're there and you hear that, you're a part of that stuff. I mean, you're just like, wow, you know.
Well, and I think
WWE's showing you the same show every week.
I heard that. I thought that's really unique how they left that. And it probably happened by accident, but once
they would
got
never.
Going, they took off.
In the other in WWE, they would never. How many years has he had Fozzy?
Oh yeah.
And at no point would they have ever even considered letting him use that song because that was something that he would have made money off of.
I'll tell you, the last time
I
went to a WWE show was the night we went to Bridgestone, and except for The Undertaker coming out, which is,
nobody got a pop.
Well, no, a few people got popped, but it just, I'm like, this isn't this isn't that great. It's not that great of a show. And, I mean, they were trying hard, but it just wasn't drawing me in until the lights went out and that bell, because we all, heard
the bell.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, that was great 5 minutes.
And I think that's
best
the
5 minutes
problem.
ever.
I think that's the problem over there. Who over there gets that reaction?
Nobody. Well, I'll tell you this much. I don't know who their bike tech was for Raw 30.
Oh God!
But whoever the person was that was in charge of teaching him how to crank that bike up and turn it back off.
It's his bike.
That is no way. Nope. Was not either.
Because it went off.
It went off, and he didn't even have a damn clue as to how to crank the thing back up. I'm like, come on, man.
No, I mean, I love that, but does he really need to be riding that down to the ring?
At his age?
I'm like, dude, you can't.
And on two bad knees, and
what could have happened?
Oh.
Well, you got to bring that character back one time.
Well, yeah, but I mean, put him on a jazzy.
Well, I think it's great, and I think this is something else I love about AEW. They incorporate just enough the old school guys to keep you, but it's not just all old school guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're going to push Dustin Rhodes for a little run here before he retires.
Yeah.
I think he's wrestling. What's his face tonight? Maybe the Swerve. I think he's wrestling.
Oh, Swerve Strickland.
And he'll give him a match. Nobody thinks he's going to win.
Yeah.
He's exiting out.
Yeah, he's already said he's retiring at the end of the year. But
Undertaker comes out on a rascal.
He could just have a scooter or something like that. But I think that they're in trouble. And they don't know what to do, and I don't know if they got anybody.
Well, they let it fall. I think that
they thought they didn't have any competition.
I think they let it fall so far down the wormhole that they just getting it back to where they want it to be.
Well,
when you have nobody to push
is an improbability.
And your thoughts on Vince exiting and then Vince coming back? Was that planned, or did he just get mad and say, you know what, by golly, I'm 51%, I'm going back?
I think he said, man, and I think his egotistical mind said, if I don't go back, they ain't gonna have nothing left to go back to.
And
sell certain whatever. But
I buy into that.
But I think he, as far as for me, I have a love-hate thing with him. You got to respect the guy for what he did. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But then at the same time, I think he's one of the most arrogant, overbearing people. Treat people. You hear stories about, he reached out and did all this for me, and then you have another stories like, well, he treated me like crap. And,
well, you go back and you read, like I was reading, just happened to be flipping through something the other day, and there was a thing about Terry Taylor, and it was talking about the whole Red Rooster, all that bull crap, and it was talking about how that one of his things back in those days was he wanted to basically to hire the biggest star that the other places have, and then bring him up to New York and make him look stupid. He did it with Dusty. He did it with Flair. He did it. He did it with everybody that he did that with. And they brought that in because they're like, look at Terry Taylor. I mean, you're talking about a guy that by the time he got to that point in his career was pretty big time. He had wrestled that 60-minute match with Flair in the Superdome. He was big time. And then all of a sudden, now you got. You put the red strip down his hair, and he's out there crowing like a rooster. And
what's crazy is if you look back on that era, who was really homegrown for him? Nobody. Everybody else was somebody he took from elsewhere. Steamboat was from Crockett. Piper was from Crockett.
Yep.
He's so. But now I don't think he has the. I still don't. I think the business has passed him by.
Yeah.
At this point. And
in your opinion, would he rather have it and run it till he was dead, or honestly sell it? I buy into your theory. If I don't come back, it may not be there for me to sell if I'm going to sell.
I don't see how it's not there to sell. The merchandising alone, because not only do they have their tape library, they got WCWs, they got World Class, AWA, they have them all.
Well, I'm sure he wants a number in his head too that he wouldn't.
I personally think he'll never sell it.
Just talk about or throw a number out there that's so ridiculous that nobody would ever go there.
I could be wrong, but I think that's his baby, and now and he'll probably be like, now if the kids won't sell it, have at it, but I don't see he'll fit.
Well, I mean, Shane's not even involved in the ownership aspect of it anymore. Hadn't been for
and she's
a number.
Supposedly, she stepped away.
Well, she put out a press release a few weeks ago about all that.
But do you believe that in
I do.
respect? Because
some of the stuff that I've seen was that after all that mess come out on him, that she took Mom's side and she didn't really. She wasn't about all that other stuff.
Well, you never know what to believe, and of course, the big rumor was they were selling it to that, investment fund out of Saudi Arabia, and they didn't want a female, didn't want a.
Some of the wrestlers. Now, I can see
I don't know.
I can see that falling. I mean, Saudi got enough money to throw away, obviously, but that might be what they would be doing.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot of American wrestlers, if that's the case, are going to go elsewhere the minute that deal's on paper.
Right. So what are they buying?
That's no different than the whole Live Golf PGA Tour kind of thing.
What would they be buying? You turn around and there ain't nobody there to wrestle.
Or nobody good.
Yeah.
There's no place like that. But I think, I'm glad that ROH got saved, but I wish somebody besides Con had bought it. Because
it dilutes the programming.
He needs to go ahead and make a deal and put somebody in charge of that and do it somewhere else. I just think competition makes you better no matter what. And
I think that was WWE's problem. Nobody had pushed them for 20, 25 years after WCW collapsed, and they didn't know how to step up to the plate week after.
Well, while we've been sitting here talking, I've just because I'm good at having good ideas, but I think we need to make sure that we get him here at least about once every 4 or 5 weeks, because we enjoy this too much when it comes to this aspect of it. So I mean, I think David needs to come just be a regular,
he needs to come prepared to sing Jericho's song too.
Well, he probably knows the words. He don't want to admit it, but I guarantee you he knows them.
My girls know the words. So
when we do the 24-hour show,
and
eventually it's going to
happen.
Just go ahead and block you out about 3 or 4 hours, and we will.
Well, before we pull this plug one more time, all the details.
NACAsports.org. February 22nd, 23rd, and 24th for our upper division teams for boys. And let me point out, this is also girls, high school girls. And then March 1, 2, and 3 for the lower divisions up in Ray County. We'd love for you guys to come out. You can buy a week pass, a day pass, get in and see a lot of basketball. Let me just point out real quick, too, or my girls would hate me. Jocelyn's favorite wrestler is Sammy Guevara. Reagan's favorite wrestler is Darby Allin, and 3 years ago we got to meet them at a Comic-Con.
Nice.
They were the nicest guys.
I could see that.
Kids.
Yeah.
Let Reagan hold the belt.
Oh, nice.
Got a picture with her. I mean, they were
How
the
about
nicest
the skateboard?
guys.
Let them hold the skateboard.
They let them have a skateboard, but were the nicest guys, and that really stood out to me.
Oh, Lord, yeah, it does. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. It's been a hard and fast hour here on the Sydney City Sports Podcast. Number one, let's thank David Stephenson for coming out and hanging out with us. We always enjoy having him on with us, because inevitably we're going to talk wrestling. We didn't even get into all the cool stories that he can tell from, seeing the wrestlers in his dad's barbershop and things like that. But we will definitely do that again. But all you folks out there, we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate all our all-star sponsors that make it possible for us to bring Scenic City Sports to you every week. Same time next week, probably back a little bit early. We want to thank our live studio audience here for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.